Yeah, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Black Trey from your network. Bring you another one, man. So, what's going on, guys? We gonna be switching up, giving a different type of video today. You know, I just been looking at the state of how things are in the relationships between people in general, and it's just kind of disappointing. So, today, I just wanted to do a video on, we're gonna name this dating after divorce, or dating after you have children. So this, it can apply to men and women, so don't get offended. Here, I've dealt with both, you feel what I'm saying? But it's a different game because I just look at the landscape and I look at like how modern women, like what they're looking for after they do what they do, and what they're asking for and what they're actually offering, and it kind of, it's just a little baffling to me. So, disclaimers, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate women, don't hate guys. This is nothing to, get yourself all in a frenzy over. It's just information, and it's just how I feel, you feel what I'm saying? And my life in terms of how things are going, I've learned a lot. And, I've had some pretty successful relationships, and they've pretty much went the way that I foresaw them going when relationships weren't good. I seen, the writing on the wall, and I knew where it was headed. And when relationships were good, I kept it alive as long as possible. And, whether through a fault of mine or fault of the other party, sometimes things just don't work. You feel what I'm saying? But they're more likely to work when, you check for red flags. So, all right, so first point, when we say dating after divorce. So what I see a lot of people do, especially women, they get online and they say, hey, I'm freshly divorced. And, all I'm finding is all these guys that just want to play games and stuff like that. And that's kind of crazy to me because it's just like women assume that after a certain age, like let's say you were married for 10, 15 years, whatever. You married. All right, now you and the guy, or you as women, you get divorced, and guys get divorced. So the woman, she gets out of the divorce, and let's say if it's the worst relationship ever, maybe, she'll walk out with, trauma, or physical, emotional, whatever, sometimes. But, it does go both ways. So I'm not putting it all on guys because we don't do that. Because I know a lot of people will think that we're doing that. We definitely don't do that. So in worst case scenario, they come out with trauma, maybe debt, kids, weight. There's a lot of factors that come out of when you are in a relationship for and especially a long period of time. So, as you get older, your metabolism, if you were skinny, it slows down a lot. So if you've been in a marriage, 10, 15 years or whatever the case may be, now you're in your 30s or 40s, now you probably don't, you don't look as good. And this is on both sides. You don't look as good. You're not as upkept as you were when you were 21. That's no question. I was an athlete, and when I was 21, I was doing a hell of a lot more than I could do now. Trust me on that. And I'm nowhere close to 21, so it is what it is. So now, worst case scenario, you trauma and everything I just stated. Now you come out with the best case scenario. Now, best case scenario is, child support. You get the house, you get the kids, you got the money, you got your career, you got all this stuff going for you. And a lot of times when like women get out of the relationships, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not the worst case scenario and it's not the best case scenario, but usually if it's kids, more than likely they have custody of the kids, number one. A lot of times they have alimony. 90% of the time they'll have child support, especially if the kids are younger. And then it is what it is. So now it's a whole different ball game because now, what you're used to doing and, whether it be the income, whether, the life that you're used to, it has to switch up because now it's just you, sometimes they'll go with like a step parent or something like that. But now that it's just you got to figure, okay, I'm going to use the money, which is what a lot of women say. Okay, I'll get these couple of dollars. And I'll, use my check or my salary to get through life. So now you have your children. But the thing is, a couple of dollars doesn't equate to taking care of a child. So people think like, all right, yeah, just pay your child support. I'm against child support just for the fact that I think quality time. I would be more inclined for child support if there was an option to do 50-50 with no child support, where both parties, who still have bills to pay and everything like that, took equal time with the child, and it was like a starting point. But seeing as how the starting point is just with the mother, to me, it's bias. So, and everybody knows the family court system is already biased. There's no shots to anybody who partakes. I have my grievances with it, but it is what it is. So, all right, so we have best case scenario. So now you come out on the market and a couple kids, you don't really have time. You got to work. You got to find sitters, especially if the kids are younger. You don't want to introduce your kids to too many guys. So, there's a lot of stipulations, especially if you have like little girls. You don't want to see, them to see you with a whole bunch of people coming in and out and stuff like that. So it gets kind of difficult. So then when you get into the dating market, which is what it is, the dating market, people are looking to have a good time. Now, mothers are looking for help, or the women are usually looking for help because, they have all this stuff to do. So I don't have no time for games, this or that. That's not really fair to the person who's out there on the other side. Now, I'm going to get to the other side and why it's different, and why the situation that the woman would be in would be different on the guy's side. So the woman, they get out there and they say, hey, I want to date, but I'm looking for something serious. I don't have any time for games. I'm not, and especially if it's like a dating app. Oh, I'm not here for no bedroom fun, and you're in the wrong place for that. The dating apps primary use, 90% of the use for it is to hook up. It's hookup culture. That's the number one place that you go for that. But women are using it as a place to try and get guys from. As a result, because the guys in their life probably aren't taking them seriously at all. As a result of just the life that you built. Because if you were married, your friend group isn't probably that huge, and then the people you're not gonna date people from work for the most part, because people do it. But if it's something serious to the point where you're going to be bringing the person around your children, that can potentially be not as good as you would like it to be. So so that's the female side. So let's go over and switch it up and go to the male side. So with the male side now, usually, all right, after the divorce, boy, it's not good most of the time, because, hey, depending on what state you live in, if it's California, after 10 years, if you're married for 10 years, 10 years in one day, lifetime alimony. So you got to deal with that. Now, if you got kids, 90% of the time, the mother gets custody. And people can check these facts. It is what it is. So the mother gets custody, depending on the situation, because, a lot of times you have power. People are going to exercise their power. So sometimes you can't see your kid. Sometimes you're not in the best of situations. So if you're not financially set, it's just kind of tough, especially if you're giving half your pension away. And it's just, there's a lot of things that come into effect when you basically deal with divorce. Because for most guys, they don't come out with a best case scenario. The best case scenario for a guy would be you guys didn't have any children. You didn't have to pay alimony, and you didn't care about splitting any assets. Like, let's say you had a property, you just say, hey, she can take it. And that was cool. But you didn't have to continue to pay her anything, and you could just walk away. Best case scenario for a guy is to be able to walk away and never have to talk to her again. But worst case scenario is you have kids, child support, you lose your job, alimony. There's a whole bunch of stuff on that side. So, but it's more likely than not that the guys would not be in the middle. They would be more inclined to be closer to the worst case scenario, just because everything is stacked against you. Because alimony, it's highly likely that you can get it after divorce for a woman. Child support, you're definitely going to get that because the kids need support, right? So, and then the splitting of the assets, that's automatic. And usually if the guys make more, which is usually what women date, then the woman is going to get, half of that, and you got to pay. So more than likely, the guy is going to come out on the side of being in the worst case scenario. They're going to be closer to that side. as I think women tend to be closer to the middle. And this is just field research that I've interviewed people and just talked to people in my life, and just I work with people, so I have conversations and I hear people's stories all day, every day, pretty much. Work in healthcare, work in psych, so you just hear the stuff that people tell you, and I take it with a grain of salt, because obviously everybody's the hero in their own story. But let's bring it back and let's equate it now to dating. So now both people are single, so we'll say the woman is single, a couple of kids. We'll say even if we'll say average, not in the worst scenario, not in the best scenario, it's closer to the middle. We'll be objective. And even for the guy, we'll say closer to the middle. So we say for the women, we'll say, hey, 3 kids, which is a common number, we find. Matter of fact, let's do 2 kids. So we'll do 2 children, but she does get child support. We won't say alimony, but she does have the house. So the house maybe wasn't paid for, so there's still a mortgage on it. And she works full-time, and the kids are under 18, so, she has to find sitters when you go out. Now she goes and she is swiping, and, obviously there's going to be real criteria that she's looking for on the dating apps, for sure. You're looking for something serious, but guys are on there looking for one thing for the most part. Some people are looking just for somebody, because there are people like guys that don't get any attention from women because, whether they be fat, unattractive, short, there's plenty of reasons why women would not even take a second glance at a guy. Broke, you feel what I'm saying? So there's a lot of factors. But now, so you go to the guy now we'll say dating now. So now you're dating. Now this guy, like the woman has, we'll stake to the women because I'm a little all over the place. So the woman, 2 kids, child support, owns the property, works full time. Now we have the guy. So now the guy, 1 child. No, we'll say, the guy, 2 children also. Child support, alimony. We'll do alimony, child support. Oh, let's put them in the same position. So we'll just do child support only for the 2 kids. But he was in the relationship, and the woman filed for divorce, and he didn't really want to do it, and now he's kind of alienated from the child. So now they go and they start dating. So, it's fun and nice and whatever. Initially, blah, blah, blah. And then, so now they're both sort of guarded, but the woman, she's dating with a purpose, like, hey, my clock is ticking, and, I want to put the pieces of my family back together, and albeit with the new, Legos, replace the father with a stepdad. And then the guy's saying, hey, he just pretty much wants a companion, because most of the time the guy doesn't necessarily, unless he sees like it's serious, which we can't tell up front as a guy, and I'm just speaking as a guy, whether it's going to be serious, but women hope that it's serious. Guys will just see, like, if she's around, and she's around, and it is what it is. So he'll say, hey, so you're not really going to introduce the woman to the kid, and you just keep things basically casual, because a guy will be okay with casual, because why would I want to be serious when it's just like, when you're in a committed relationship, there's a lot of things you can't do. So being single, you're able to keep your freedom. You don't have to, deal with like nagging or arguing, or it's just the stuff that wasn't good in a marriage, you don't have to deal with. And for guys, that's actually enlightening. But for women, they don't want to be alone and they need help. So for guys, just be like, all right, guys don't mind being alone for the most part. If you get women, then you wouldn't mind being alone. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It's not who hurts you. It's none of that stuff. It's just, that sometimes the benefit, you actually gain more when you're able to not have to put the focus on other people. So if it's just like, all right, I'm by myself, but I have the kids, I pay my child support and I get them on the weekends or every other weekend. And, I just got to focus on that. I don't have to make nobody happy. I don't have to, do all these things that it takes to keep a relationship in tow. So they say we should be happy for a relationship, right? So now these people are dating, and then when they say the guy sees any sort of red flags, it's just bringing them back to say, hey, I didn't come out of this unscathed. So I'm not willing to put in the time to, get, financially graped again, or, if I have a kid, then go through the same situation where I can't see the kid or whatever the case may be. From the woman's side, she may say the same thing, like, oh, I'm not willing to put that risk in, but it's not as much of a risk because the most that will happen, all right, if you do and it goes well for a while and you guys do end up breaking up, if you have a kid, guess what? You're going to get financial help. You're going to get a lot of things. The downside, I would say, is on the children's end because now their dad isn't around and they're losing somebody who they would know. So it's a non-factor. And on the guy's side, they're losing somebody because they're not the father of the children. So if they were to get into the relationship with you, they're going to be in a relationship with the children. So they've poured their resources in the kids that weren't theirs. They probably, spent money, spent time. So not only are they losing that investment in the children, but they're also losing not one, not two, but three people. So that sucks sometimes. So when they say that guys aren't serious, it's not that they're not serious. It's just, it's no benefit most of the time, especially if you're seeing all these red flags and a woman isn't going out of her way to show that, she's worth the risk of having to put up with this stuff. A lot of times what we see online is these women talking about, oh, I need all this materialistic stuff, and you never hear them talking about the character of the man. So a lot of times when it's good guys, the stuff that you hear is nice guys finish last, they're boring, they're this, that, and the third, and what women say that they want, they don't want. And then these guys, they go from, if they were with somebody and they get divorced, now they're nice guys, and they were nice guys, now guess what? They're going to flip it around, and they're not going to be so nice anymore on the next time around because they're going to say, hey, you know what? I've been through these situations, and it's going to be on both sides too, because on the woman's side, it's also the case. She's going to be guarded and stuff like that, and it's just different because women, they look for security, they look for protection, strong, handsome, muscular. There's a lot of things that women look for that are quality when it comes to a long-term partner. For a guy, for the most part, most guys would settle for, is she nice and friendly? Even if you're not that attractive, even if you're overweight, a lot of guys will sit there and just take it just because they would prefer to just have an easy life, especially if you're a nice person, easygoing. A lot of times you say, hey, how did such and such get married? Because if you look at the, let's say, Hispanic culture, those women, from the time they're young, 14, 15, to the day they die, they have options, and they're open to their options, and the guys, they know the value in the women. Even though, I don't mean they know the value like other women aren't valuable, but they do not say that they don't need each other. So they go out, and they get into relationships, and even if it ends badly, oh, he cheated on me, this and that, guess what? When somebody else comes, they give them a chance. Even though there may be trauma there, they still say, hey, you know what, we're going out. They're not going to say, hey, I don't need a man. The modern, maybe Hispanic women, but if you go to a lot of these other places, like Mexico or a lot of the third world countries, and they'll say, oh, freedoms and all this stuff, just the mindset. More than likely, the family unit, especially like Mexicans, especially in this country, they stick to their family. And those things are not always going to be on the brightest. Sometimes you got to say, hey, you know what? Should I stick this out? Because you know what? Sometimes it's not as bad because you come out into the dating market and nobody owes you anything. They come out and they see you and they say, oh, I have all these kids and da-da-da. And then you go and then you start talking and the guys are just like, most guys who know women, they just allow the women to speak. So a lot of times the reason why women aren't getting the results that they want is because once you open up your mouth, all the traumas and stuff start spilling out. And now you start talking bad about the person, oh, he was this and that and the third and da-da-da, and all your exes are bad and everybody's this and that and you don't hear any responsibility. And then he thinks to himself like, hey, if this doesn't go well, she's going to be talking like this about me to somebody else. So, you gotta weigh the pros and the cons. That's why I don't kiss and tell. Don't ask me about anything. I don't have anybody. I've never had anybody. I've never dated anyone. I don't have anything negative to say about anyone. If I'm going to be in a long-term relationship, we're starting fresh and that's it. So, that's just my thoughts. It's kind of tough and the dating market is not easy, but at the end of the day, you're asking for trouble when you come out into the Wild Wild West, we'll call it, with a whole bunch of trauma, because people can see you coming a mile away. You haven't been exercising your dating muscles, and you just been acclimated to a certain type of person who probably just put up with your behaviors. But nobody's going to be, and that's on both sides, men and women. So, and nobody's going to be inclined to put up with your stuff. So, just keep that in mind when you go out there, that you're actually, when after divorced, you're coming in at a loss, especially if you're trying to date somebody who hasn't been married, who doesn't have kids. It can be a lot. So if you're a person like a guy who knows how to get women, then it's not really gonna matter, because you can make it work for you. But for women, sometimes you may have to say, hey, you know what, you may have to forego some of the things that you're looking for. And they say, oh, don't never tell nobody to settle, because it sucks being alone. But hey, to each his own. But sometimes you got to be realistic in where you are. If you're overweight, you may try and slim down, but you can't go looking for Brad Pitt, because Brad Pitt would not say, hey, he wouldn't be with that, or if you're broke, or, if you're vain, you don't have any character. This is stuff you need to work on before you go out and try and get into a relationship, So, it is what it is, man. I just figured I'd go on a rant, because I see a lot of people complaining, and, it's kind of frustrating, because certain type of women have no problem getting a man, and then other type of women, have a real issue with getting anybody of quality. And sometimes, I feel bad, because, I got daughters, and I'm going to teach them the things they can do to maximize their chances of having great relationships in life. So, it is what it is, man. It's your boy Black Trey. This is just a topic I wanted to cover. It may seem like it was a little all over the place, but, it's just a little something that I'm going to be trying to do, covering a couple topics. Hopefully it wasn't all over the place and you could follow it. This is the first time doing this, so, but, I really appreciate you guys checking in with the channel. And that's it. If you look forward to more, just leave a comment down below, and we'll be checking in with you guys later. Have a good one.